Hi guys, this is Sai Kumar Kurtivada. In this video, we will target for HTML input attributes, especially the input field and input element and their respective attributes. How these attributes adds the feature for that input field, that we will be focusing in this particular video. So let me quickly jump into Visual Studio Code. Here what we'll do is we'll create an element called as input. So input is my element, and now let me save this, go here and just reload. Now you can see there is an input which has been created. So now what we'll discuss is we will discuss about the first property called as placeholder. So this is my first property or an attribute of that particular input field. Now what we'll do is we will focus on this placeholder. What exactly this placeholder is for? Placeholder is nothing but whenever you give some value inside the placeholder, that will be visible in that particular input field until we enter some value. Example, I'm using something like first name and save this, go here, just reload, and you are able to see that first name. Actually speaking, that is not the main content. It is an intimation to the user what to enter in that particular field. So this is my first name, let me enter. Whenever I type something in this particular field, the placeholder will be replaced with my main content. Example, Sai Kumar. So this is my first name and you are not able to see that placeholder because it contains the original content or the data. So let me remove this. Again, there is no data in this particular field, hence you will be seeing the placeholder value. Now, for what type of fields it will be useful, and that we will be discussing whenever we are talking about types in the input field. Now what I'll do is, let me go here, and there is another attribute called as type. So whenever you are using a type, by default this attribute contains a type called as text. So let me use a text, which is the default property or the value. So let me go here, reload. Now what is this text? In the sense, whenever you are typing something, it will accept all the type of details. It is accepting a number, it is accepting the string and alphabets, like that. It can accept anything. That is called as text. And if you are not giving this type property, by default that input will have the type as text. So whenever you are using any property, we have to remember three things. What is the type of that particular field or a property? For example, placeholder. Placeholder is a string type of data. So if you can see here, it is a string type of data. Whenever you are using a type, that is also a string type of data. And you have some set of other properties where it accepts the Boolean value. We will discuss about them. So this is the first thing which you have to remember, the type of that property and what should be assigned and what is the default value. What is the default one, what you want to assign to it, and what exactly the type of that particular property. These three things we have to remember whenever we are talking about attributes or the properties of a particular element. Now this is defaults to text. So we spoke about the text field. Now what I'll do is, let me break this statement by using BR tag. I have explained about BR tag in my previous video and about the self-closing tag in my previous video. If you want to understand more about self-closing or breaks element, you can check my previous videos. I'll provide the link in the description. Now this is a BR tag. Now it will break into a new line, and let me add an input field again where I can add a placeholder like last name. And this is also a type of text in the same way. So we have a self-closing again, and just I am adding one more BR tag. Now what I want to add is, I want to add one more input field where he has to enter his number, that means age. So let me use an input field where he want to enter age. So placeholder will be age and type will be something like number, because particular age will be having a number property and the type of that input field is number, and it is a self-closing. Let me close this. Now what happens is, let me reload this. If you see here, we got first name, we got last name, and we got age. So if you see an age property, you got two up and down arrows. What this actually does is, it will increment the value whatever you have entered in that particular field. For example, I didn't enter any value in that field. When I click on the up arrow, it becomes 1 because it is incremented by 1. In the same way, when I click n number of times, it is just going on increasing with increment of 1. And when I click down arrow, it will decrement by 1. And it will also goes to the minus value, that is negative values as well. So here what I can enter is, I can enter some set of number. And if I enter something like 10, whenever I click up arrow, it will not start from 1. It starts from the current value which already exists in that particular field. So when I click on up arrow, you can see you are getting that particular value incremented from the current value. Now the current value is 16. When I click this, it becomes 17. That means it started at 10 and now I incremented 7 times. So the value is 17. If I click down arrow, it will reduce by 1 and it will come to 0 and minus as well. So that is about this particular arrows, which will be helpful whenever you are using a type as number. And whenever we are clicking this, it is incrementing only by 1. But there is a case where I want to increment this particular arrow with 2. That means for every click, it has to increment by 2. For every down arrow click, it has to decrement by 2. For that sake, there is one more attribute called as step. So let's talk about step, which is specifically where the type is number. Whenever we are using type is number, and then only the step has its own value or the priority. But whenever you are using a type as text, this step does not have, and the particular input field will ignore that step value. So for example, I gave 2. Now what will happen is for every click it will increment by 2. So let me go here and reload. Now let me click on up arrow. It incremented by 2, 4, 6, 8 like that. And now let me click the down arrow. Let me click this 6, 4, 2 and 0. That means the step method will help us how much value should be incremented by clicking the up arrow or down arrow. And this step property will be applicable for the input field when the input field type is number. So that's about your input field with a type number and a step property. Now there is one more added advantage for this particular type number, where you can give the minimum value and the maximum value. There are two other properties called as min. Whenever you are giving a min value, then it will accept or receive the value minimum with that value. For example, I gave minimum of 10 and the maximum of 20. So what is my maximum value? 20. And what is my minimum value? 10. So let me go here, just reload this. The default value which is shown in this particular field, whenever I click on the up arrow, then it starts with 10. Let me click this, it started with 10. Let me click number of times, it went till 20. If I click, it is not moving forward because I gave the maximum value as 20. When I click down arrow, it is going till 10. Why? Because the minimum value is 10. So what is this properties? Min and max. Min and max is something like the properties which helps us to give the value to that particular field. So that's how you can use min and maximum value of a type number. And this min, this max and this step are especially used for type as number. So we can use these three properties on the type as number. And now let me go with text again. There is one more property called as size. So by default, the size value starts with 20. So let me give the 20 as a size value so that you will not see any change in that particular text. Let me go here, reload. Now you didn't saw any length incremented. If you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, that is 10 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. That means you got 20 characters over here. Now what I can do is I can increment this size so that the visibility of the characters will also increment. So for example, I gave them something like 30. Let me go with 30 characters. Let me reload. It incremented and the visibility of that input field will increase to 30 characters. You can give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Let me copy this, put it over here and put it over here. So you saw mostly the number of characters has been incremented in the visibility. So you can give the size property to see the visibility of that particular characters. Now what I can do, this size property is used for giving a size to that particular input field where the visibility of that characters get increased. And there is something called as min length. So whenever you are using a type not as a number, then you can give min length. Whenever you are using type as a number, you have to give min property. I want to give minimum length of 10. So let me save this, go here and reload. You can give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. That is the minimum values. If you don't give the minimum value, the submission will not happen. For that sake, what I'll do is I'll wrap all these input fields into a form. Let me wrap that first so that you will understand in an easy manner. So let me go here, form and form closing tag. Let me format this. Now I can give something like an action where I can give to another index file. So let me go here. We don't have any file other than index.html. Let me create index.to.html, and this is my file. Let me go here and write an h1 tag like index2 file. Let me save this and let me minimize this. Go here and just give the relative path dot slash index2.html and save this. Go here, just reload. Now we got a form, and inside that form we have 3 fields. Let me create a submission. So we will talk more about the button. For now I am talking about button, where my button type is submit, and let me go here and add submit, and now save this. I have created a button to submit. Whenever I click on the submit, it will call this action. So we'll talk more about this action and the type submit. Go here and reload just to show you the validation. Let me click on this. It went to the next file, but if I start typing something in the first name, let me go and type 1 2 3 and just submit this. Now you can see, please lengthen this text to 10 characters or more. You are currently using 3 characters. That means we are using the 3 characters over here, but it is expecting minimum length of 10. So let me try to give 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0, and if you submit now, it has properly validated and moved to the next step. That means the submission happened over here. So we are able to submit this value if we are giving more than 10 characters or the length of 10. And if you go and give minimum length as 5 and maximum length as 10, there is some other property as well like max length, and this max length, let me go with 10. So if you extend or execute this maximum length more than 10 characters, then what will happen? Let me go and reload, and if I start typing 1 to submit, so you got the 5 characters is the expectation. Let me go and submit again. 5 characters is the expectation and 2 characters is what you have entered. So let me give 5 characters, 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. Let me submit. Now I gave more than 5 characters, so it has been submitted. And if I give 7 8 9 0, so we have around 10 characters as a maximum length. If I type something, you can listen to my keyboard. So we are trying to type that particular field, but it is not receiving any value because we gave the maximum length. Whenever you give a maximum length, till that point you can type something, but after that point you cannot type or you cannot enter any value in that particular field. That's about your min length and maximum length. And also there is another option to use, that is nothing but a required property. If you see here, the min length and the max length are completely related to a number property. So if you see here, min length is accepting a number and max length is also accepting a number, size is also accepting a number. So the type of these properties are number. So that is the type of the attribute, and the default attributes is min length should be 0 and maximum length will be null or undefined because we are not defining it. That is why it will not have the default value. That's about your text field for min length and max length. We will talk about one more property called as required. So required is a property which will be used to enter some value. For example, let me go here and just reload. When I click this, it is going to the submission because we didn't enter any values in my first name. If first name is a mandatory field, he has to enter that value. To enter that value, we can restrict the user not to go forward until he enters some value in the particular field by using the required property. So required property is a boolean value. If you give that property, it will become true, and if you don't give that property, it will become false. So let me go here and let me go into the next line so that we can see all the properties properly. And now size, min length and max length. Save this. What we are doing, we want to make this as mandatory field. That means required field. If you give this particular property, then it will become true and this will become a mandatory field. So if you don't enter this mandatory field, it will not allow you to submit the form and it will throw an error. Let me go here, reload. When I click this, you can see please fill this field. That means it is mandatory field. So it is taking it as mandatory field, and it is like a boolean value. If you give that value, it will take true. If I remove that value, the required value is false. It will take that value and it will apply that particular feature to your input field. And there is one more other property called as disabled and read only. So let's talk about read only. Read only is something like it gives a boolean value. Again, whenever you are giving that property, then it will be true by default. If you don't give that property, it will become false. So how this read only will work? Read only, that means you have to read, you cannot type. So that is the intimation of that particular read only. Let me reload, and now if you type something, we can't type this. You can listen to my keyboard. I'm trying to type something, but you are not able to type, and you can see the focus on this particular field. So the blue color is something like wherever my cursor is pointed. So if I click on this, this will become blue color, and if I click on this, this will become blue color, and I cannot type whenever the property is read only. So whenever you want to make a field as non-editable, then you can use read only property. And there is some other property called as disabled. Let me show you the difference between read only and disabled. Let me apply that disabled here. Disabled is also a boolean value, and it will take true or false. If you give disabled, then it automatically points to true, and that input will become disabled. Let me go here and reload. Now you can see there is a gray out on that particular field. Let me zoom it. You can see a gray out feature, and if you click on that, even it will not focus. This is read only. Let me click this. You cannot enter the value, but you can focus. Here you cannot even focus, you cannot even enter some value. It is in a disabled state. So whenever you want to put some value as a disable or an input field as a disable, then you can use this disabled property. Mainly this disable when we will use is whenever we are using a buttons or the input type as buttons. This is something like disabled. Let me go here. Let me remove this read only property and go here and read. Now this is something like a first name. I can able to type, but whenever you reload this particular page, the cursor is not pointed anywhere on this particular fields. It is out of the box, and when I click on this, then only that particular field is getting triggered or focused. So how to focus a particular field on the load of the page? Whenever you load a page, and if you want to focus a specific field, then you can use a property called as autofocus. There is a property called as autofocus. So whenever you use this autofocus, it is also a boolean value. By default, whenever you put this autofocus, it will take it as boolean value as a true, and whenever you reload the application, then automatically my cursor moves to that particular field which is having autofocus. Autofocus is something like automatically focusing a particular field. That's about your autofocus feature of that particular input field. And now let's talk about some other types which are available in our HTML. So let me add a BR tag again, and let me add one more thing called as input, where I'm using a placeholder like email, and there is a type called as email. And what I'll do is I'll make this as safe and go here, reload. Now you got an email feature, and we have first name. Let me enter the first name Sai Kumar, and last name is disabled. Let me enter the age. So let me try to type something in this email. Let me give Sai, but I didn't give @Gmail. Let me submit this. You can see it is expecting an email type of address along with the @. So let me type @. Now it is expecting incomplete email. So I am typing gmail.com, and when you submit, it will be submitted properly. That means whenever you want to handle some set of email types, then you can use type email. Let me go here and reload and click this. We can type sai@gmail.com and click submit. Now you can see we got an error in the first name. Let me give Sai Kumar and let me submit. It submitted. So type email is used to validate a particular email type of input fields. So that's why we will be using the type as email. There is one more type called as URL. So let's talk about URL. Input placeholder, and I want to give something like URL, or let me give URL entry and type as URL. So I'm giving a type as URL. What is meant by URL? You should have https:// and we have to give some www.google.com. Such type of things are called as URLs. Let me go here and reload, and if I try to type something before typing URL Sai Kumar and give age as 20, sai@gmail.com, and let me give the URL. I want to give some Sai Kumar. Okay, this is my URL I am giving, but it will not accept. Let me click this. Please enter a URL. So what I have to enter is I have to enter URL https://www.google, and I'll submit. Now it went. Why? Because it took this particular https colon, and let me remove this and click this. Now it is expecting a URL again. So let me give www dot or www and submit. So after https colon // it is expecting at least one character to enter, so that it will try to fetch that URL. So here the URL validation is till here. If you have https colon // with some set of characters, then automatically you can submit that particular form and it is validated as a proper URL. So let me remove one slash and submit it. Now it is expecting a proper URL. Let me type W and submit. It accepts. That is https colon // If you want to have this particular validation on an input field, then you can use the type as URL. So that's about your URL type. And now let me go with one more BR tag. So in general, we will be using some set of date pickers. So whenever you want to accept a date which is from the current system, then you can use an input type as date. So let me go with an input where my input type or a placeholder is DOB, that means date of birth, and I want to give a type as date. So I want to select date. Let me go here and reload. Now you got a placeholder like this with DD, YY format. If you click this particular icon, then automatically it will show some set of UI with a calendar, and I can select today's date or I can select previous date as well. If I select previous date, you can select something like this, and if you want to go up, you can select up, and you can select the previous month. If you go down, you can select the next month, and if you want to change the year, you can change from here, and you can change the month as well, like 2023 February 2nd, and you can see 2023 February 2nd, and this is how you can select some set of value. And there is some other properties for this date. So how this date will work is I can use something like min value for this date as well. In the same way how we used for type as number, we can use some minimum date and maximum date. So what I want to do is I want to start from February 2nd. So let me reload this and click this. You have 5th, and I want to accept only from current month till 15th of this month. So that means first is the minimum and 15th is the maximum, or let me consider 2nd is the minimum and 15th is the maximum. So what I can do is I can give something like 2024 hyphen, and let me give a month, and then I'll go with the date. Date is like 3 because I just want to give a clarity between February, that is 02, and the date 02. So I gave 03. So 03 is the date. Let me reload now, and if you see this, the first and the second date of the February has been disabled. That means I have to start minimum of 3. And if you go up, there is an up arrow which is disabled. That means you cannot even go to the previous month because we have restricted this particular date. I can select 3rd or 4th and anything further. So you can select further as well. But our target is to stop till 15th of February. So for that sake, I can give maximum value. The maximum value is 2024 format, that is YYYY year format, and 02 is a month format, and I want to give till 15th. Let me save this. After 15th, you cannot select any of the data. Let me open this, and you can see here you can select 3 to 15. That means 3 is a minimum, 15 is a maximum. And if you see here, the date was not restricted, but month is restricted, and 2024 is restricted because the month is only 02 and 02. That means we are selecting only between these two. If you give 03, then that particular year will be blocked. Let me reload. Now year is blocked, but you can select month till March 15th. So you can select till March 15th from February 3rd. So like that, you can give a minimum date and maximum date for your date picker. And also you have something like when you click on clear, it will clear all the data which is entered in this particular field. And also whenever you give some today date, then it will select the current date of that particular month or date of that particular day. So that's about your date picker. And whenever you want to use a date picker, you can use input type as date. And let me break this. And along with the date, if you want to pick a time, then how we can do that? So we can do that by using a type as date time local and save this. Now go here, there is something like date time local type which will accept date. Along with the date, you can select hours, minutes and seconds. Let me go here and select. You can see this part is a date part and this part is a time part. You can use 12 a.m., 12:15 p.m. like that. Let me select first 16 a.m. So you can see first 16 a.m. That means 1:16 a.m. So 5th February 2024, first 16, that means 1:16 a.m. So you can select time as well as date. And if you select today, then it will take the current value. Let me clear this off. Click this today and then you took default as current time. And if you change the time, you can change the time, and then you can see if I hover on it and if I scroll, you have 12 hours and 60 minutes along with the seconds. So let me go up and you can see till 60. So here it is 60, that is 00, and you can select AM and PM. So that's about your date time local. There is some other property which can be used for picking up the files. That is nothing but input where the type is file. So whenever you give the type as file, you can choose a file. Let me reload this, and you got a choose file. When you click on this, it will open your my computer's folder structure and you can select any of the file. Let me choose this, and you can see there are some set of fields over here. Let me select some screenshot and click open. Now you can see the screenshot along with that file name. So you can see the file name here and you can change that file. Whenever I click on this, you can change this and open. You can see that cancellation, and that file, that is a file name. When you click open and cancel this, it will remove that particular file. So that means if you want to accept some set of files, then you can use this type as file. And there is something like a attribute especially for this type as file. So that is nothing but accept. You can accept only specific extensions, that is like .jpeg, .pdf. That means whenever you are picking some set of files, it will disable all the remaining files except the file extension which is mentioned in this accept property. So let me give .pdf, so you can accept only PDFs. Let me go here, reload, click on choose, then you can see all has been disabled. Only you can select the PDFs. That means whatever the PDFs you have, you can select. If you want to select multiple things like comma dot jpeg, then save this, go here and reload. Let me click on this. You can select jpeg as well, but here we don't have any jpegs. That's why you are able to see this particular PDFs only. So like that, you can give n number of file extensions for this accept property, so that you can accept only that particular properties. So that's about your file type. And there is one more type, that is nothing but a color picker. So there is a input field where you have a type as color. So whenever you give the color, it will allow you to pick any of the color. Let me go here and reload. Now you can click on this. By default it is having a black color. Let me click on this. You got a panel where you can select the colors. Let me click on this, let me click on this, and you got RGB color as well. When you click on this, HSS color, when you click on this, hex color, like that you have an arrows where you can select any type of color. We will talk more about this hex formats, RBG format, all this in the upcoming videos whenever we are talking about CSS. But for now, this is a picker where you can select any of the particular value, and that value can be selected from here. So that's about your type as color. So this is how we can use different types of input fields. And there is one more thing which is like input, where the type is hidden. When you give type as hidden, it will not be shown on the UI. Let me go here and just reload. When you see that, you don't see any of the field, but actually speaking, there is an input field before this submit, but you are not able to see that. So that's about your input type as hidden. There is one more thing which is very important for us, that is nothing but input where the type is password. So whenever you give the type as password, that will act like a password field. So if you type something in this, it will always show that dots. You can see here, I am just giving something and it is showing in the dot format, and that dot format will not be visible to anyone. So that's about your password field. So in general, we will be creating a button in this format, and there is a way to create this button with another format as well. Like if you give a break statement and give input, where input type as, you can give three things. One is button, and let me save this. Go here and just reload. Now you can see a button, but if you want to see some label on it, there is a property called as value. So whenever you are using a value property, that can be shown on that particular button. For example, here in this case, I am using submit and save this. Go here and reload. Now you can see a submit button. That's about your button type. We have reset, we have submit, and we have a button for type. So you can use any of them. There is a difference for them. We will discuss about these buttons, especially in a separate video, so that we will understand in a better fashion. We have something like a checkbox and a radio button. Let me use BR tag with a checkbox. Input where type is equal to checkbox. So whenever you give this checkbox, it will be creating a checkbox over here like this, where you can tick and untick, tick and untick. And there is something like input where you can use a type as radio button. Type is equal to radio, so that it will create a radio button for you. Let me reload, and now it will be creating a radio button. What is the difference between checkbox and a radio button? Checkbox is something like whenever you have multiple answers and you can select multiple choice over there, then we can use a checkbox. You have multiple options and you want to select only one, then you can use radio button. We will talk more about radio button and checkbox as a separate video. We have some other properties which we have to learn, especially for radio buttons and checkboxes, that we will talk in the upcoming video. So that's it for this video. This will give you a glance about what are the input fields, what are the different properties which we can use in the particular form. So that's about this complete understanding of form input fields and their particular properties. We'll talk about select, we'll talk about text area in the upcoming videos, along with the checkboxes and radio button, along with buttons as well. And also we will talk about this action as well as a method. There is another property called as method, how to use that method. And also we will talk about name and ID properties, which are very important for our form submission. So that properties also we'll talk in the upcoming videos. Hope you like my explanation. If you like my video, like, share, subscribe to my channel for more updates. Signing off. Thank you.